Hey everyone, welcome to the Cedar Room podcast where we talk about life, family, a lot of business, and a little bit about everything else. I'm Dan Vanderkoy, husband to my stunning wife Erin, dad to our 3 wild kiddos, and owner of Mana Insurance Group. From running around playing games as a youth pastor to running an insurance company, I've experienced and learned a lot. We hope this is a place for you to come think, process, and challenge yourself to grow. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay connected as we talk through these ideas together. This Cedar Room podcast is brought to you by Mana Insurance Group, a nationwide agency providing home, auto, long-term care, and business insurance. Call us at 360-922-0149 or visit us at manainsurancegroup.com. Nationwide is on your side. Products underwritten by Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio. Well, hey everybody, Dan Vanderkoy here again with our Mana Cedar Room podcast number 3. And today I'm really excited because I get to sit across from one of my really good friends, Blake Witman. Blake, how are you today, man?
Hey, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. And, because we don't hang out enough, we need to make more time to do it, right?
That's right. So Blake and I go way back. We've been good friends for a long time. We actually used to do youth ministry together. We've done some coaching stuff together. And Blake recently, about a year ago, came over to Mana Insurance Group as one of our agents now and doing an awesome job taking care of people and getting the coverage they need. And so Blake has to see me, 5 or 6 days a week now, and sometimes in the evening when we hang out with our kiddos and things like that. So it's just good to have you here, and we're excited to kind of get in and talk a little bit about today, setback, comeback, the importance of mentorship. And I know that's been huge in my life, and even just talking to you, especially in the coaching realm with Lynden football, the importance that mentorship has played in your role as a coach and in your life in general.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. When you step into something new, you never really know what's going to be coming of it. It was back in right after the 2005 Lynden football season. I decided that I wanted to kind of give back to a program that gave so much to me. So I very humbly walked into Coach Kramme's office and said, hey, I'd love to come on board and help out in any way that I can. And it's interesting looking back at that moment, how even in that first conversation with him, he was already teaching me something, because the first statement he made to me was basically about commitment. He said, here's the deal. You're going to come on. I'll bring you on. You're not going to get paid, but I want you to know the expectations are just as high for you as every other person that's getting paid on this staff, that you're going to be there every day for the duration of every practice, and that is a commitment you have to make. Literally his first words to me.
Double barrel right at you,
There
right?
was no doubt. There was no doubt.
Do you think that even having the clarity of expectations from the beginning, as you look at someone who I would say over time you definitely looked up to, and he brought you along to even where you're at today, and you look at the history of the Lynden football program in the state of Washington, and I mean it's top notch. It's up there. The expectations are there now every single year. But having that clarity of expectations right from the beginning from Coach Kramme, how did that play into, I guess, your development as a coach, but also as a person, and understanding what, I guess, commitment to something looks like?
Right. I think a lot of it is, like you said, you used the word clarity. I think that's perfect, because I knew from that moment exactly what was expected. And, there's such a huge list of things that he taught me. But probably one other thing, in fact, I was talking to Coach Van Dalen about this as well, and one of the things he brought up was consistency. And you talk to every person, that has come onto this staff, they all got the same thing. Yeah. It's about consistency and expectation, and that's very clear. And it's very easy at that point for a young coach that knows nothing. I knew from point A, this is what is expected. This is what is going to happen. And it's that type of consistency over time that hopefully is something that has gone out, not only in my coaching life, but the rest of my life, other aspects of my life. Yeah.
So how old were you when you walked into Coach Kramme's office for the first time?
Boy, let's see. I would have been 24.
Okay. And you've been coaching how long now?
I'm going on I started in 2006. So going on my, what is that? 14th season.
Yeah. So even as a 24-year-old, and I started coaching when I was 21, and it looks very different now, right? You have 3 kids. You've just changed careers. And from going back to like coaching at that point, walking in when there's not as big of an age gap, and the relation to kids, there might be a little more things you can relate to when you get older. Maybe we get a little tired and a little less patient sometimes.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah. And, but when you look at over time, maybe just kind of like, I'll give you kind of free rein, share the story of that relationship with Coach Kramme and, what he meant to you as a person, as a coach, and how things kind of developed in your life, right. And even just your coaching career over, these last 14 years or so, and even, the different championships and things like that, and where we're at today.
Yeah. It's interesting to look back at to where I was because obviously I had him as a teacher first. So I looked to him and I respected him as a teacher and as a coach when I went through high school. But like I said, that fear and that humility I had towards him that first day that I walked into his office, to look at what it became years later, and how that transformed. How did that happen? First of all, it was a lot of time spent. I think a true mentorship doesn't just happen overnight. There was a slow transition and a slow process. He went from someone that I held up so high that I was completely in fear of, to over time, and the way he treated me, whether I knew nothing about football or not, he always encouraged. And over time, I became more of a peer.
So let me jump in there really quick too. Like, what for maybe the people who don't know who Coach Kramme is, who aren't from the state that we're in, or different things like that. What, maybe give us a little background on who Coach Kramme is, what he did, what his role was, and kind of the legacy he left a little bit.
Curt Kramme graduated from Blaine High School. His senior year was the starting quarterback on the state championship winning football team. Okay. He very quickly went into coaching at Burlington Edison High School. Okay. As I think a volunteer assistant or maybe a paid assistant. Shortly thereafter, he moved down. I like to throw this in there when he met his wife Wendy. Their first date was a high school scouting football trip.
A true coach, right?
Absolutely. I mean, here it is. This is what you get. They moved down to Bakersfield, California. He took a coaching job down there, was down there for a few years, and then came back up. He was hired on, he was very young at the time. I can't remember exactly how young, but hired on at Lynden High School, 1991 football season. Okay. They won the state title that year.
As the head coach?
As the head coach. So his first year as a head coach, they won the state title. Pressure.
Yeah.
Expectations. Right. He was then there from 91 till the day he passed away, which was it 2-3 years ago? Okay. After a long battle of cancer. But his time at Lynden, you will ask different people and you will get different things on what he was to them. But he loved his students. He loved his players. He was not always the easiest to talk to in a social setting. That just wasn't his personality. Yeah. But he left such an incredible mark. And I think probably the moment that blew my mind the most was towards the end of his battle with cancer, and Papa Murphy's did a special where if you bought a pizza, all the proceeds of that pizza was going to go to the Kramme family for his cancer
the
fight.
Line around the block for that.
There, I showed up to help out, and it wasn't just Lynden people. Yeah. I mean, there was Nooksack people, Baker people, Ferndale people. I mean, people came from...
Ferndale people is a big deal,
that is a very
right?
big deal. It was just amazing to see, and it was so funny because by that point, I had such a close relationship with him. He was just Curt to me. Yeah. But when I took a step back and looked at what was going on within this community, and not just the Lynden community, but Whatcom County as a whole, you quickly see big picture. Man, this guy left an incredible mark just because he not just because he was a football coach, but because of who he was as well.
Well, and that's for you to have the opportunity to walk life along with this guy, right? What an incredible opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more then. As you come on, you have the clear expectations. Hey, you're going to be here from sun up to sundown, right? For practices, for games, for watching film. What did you learn through that?
I learned attention to detail. It was I can remember Saturdays. Saturdays was our breakdown film day where we go through the upcoming opponent, and we will watch these games, and we will go play by play and put in all the information. One person sitting at a computer typing it all in, one person running the video computer, one person jotting everything down. And I can remember getting through 3 or 4 games, and in my head, I know what this team is going to do to us. I know what we need to stop. I know what we need to do to score points. So you start putting stuff away, and coach would look at us and go, well, where are you going? Well, we got 3 or 4 games in. No, we're going to do more. We are never going to be outworked. And that was something, again, he was so consistent with. Mm-hmm. The small attention to detail. I can think now that when he passed, Coach Van Dalen went from the defensive coordinator to the head coordinator. I moved into the defensive coordinator position. There was a moment this last season that I kind of looked back and smiled, because we were in a game with against a very good team that we were fighting for the top of the league with, and it was a must-win. And it came down to the final possession, and we had to get a stop. And we had told my linebackers, if you see this happen, they're going to throw the ball here. Now, I look back at that now because we end up getting a pick. They run that exact play. Our linebacker reads it, steps in front, catches it. We win the football game. And I was driving home that night, and I was excited about the fact that, we had picked up on that small little detail, and we had been able to communicate it to our player. And because we were able to do that, it played a big role in the outcome of that game. And it almost brought tears to my eyes, because all of a sudden I sat back and I started thinking about where I learned that from.
Yeah.
And that was the many, many years of standing next to Curt Kramme, watching him do that very thing, and realized very quickly that this had nothing to do with me. That this was completely about what and how he taught me to pay attention to those small little details.
Yeah. And what a cool legacy, right? Mm-hmm. For him to be able to leave with so many members of his coaching staff that he mentored, that he oversaw, mm-hmm. sticking around, right?
I think that's a big part of it too. When he did pass away, there was that big question of, can Lynden still be Lynden without Curt Kramme?
Yeah.
And, obviously in a transition year, there's going to be some tough times, and as new people are trying to figure out new stuff. But last year was year 2. And you look back at who was on our staff currently, and we were all mentored by Coach Kramme. And we were able to put together a very successful season and make it to the state championship. And I look back at that. I think the only reason that transition happened as smoothly as it did is because we were all mentored by Curt. And we didn't have to change anything, because he was so good at teaching the rest of us how it needed to be done. Keeping us held to a very high standard, but then continually showing along the way that over time, like I said, that mentorship over time, we didn't have to change anything. It was already in place because he left it there. Yeah.
Do you find that, the attention to detail and the consistency, and even I'd say the teamwork approach, that was brought to that you talk about in the film room, right, and the coaching staff. And I've been privileged a couple times to sit up in the booth with you quietly and just observe. And those have been some interesting times. There's one close game and one blowout game. It was very interesting, the mood in the box. But
remember, it stays in the box.
I know, it stays in the box, right? And but what was really cool for me to see what a well-oiled machine that you guys were. But talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that he instilled with teamwork, the attention to detail, consistency, accountability, all those things, and maybe how that's played a role in not only from a coaching standpoint, but maybe areas just in life for people and the importance of that mentorship. I mean, we talk about Setback, Comeback, the power of mentorship, right? That's the title of this podcast. And how did those disciplines and those things that he implemented and walked alongside with you guys at, and asked you hard questions and challenged you guys. And I don't think a true mentor makes it just rosy and, rosy flowers that smell good all the time, right? I mean, it's there's going to be hard times, right? Yep. But yet ultimately it seems like everyone you come in contact with, whether how well they knew him or not, there was a respect.
There was a respect.
Right. And I think he earned that. And so maybe share a little bit about how that plays into just into life in general.
Yeah. One of the things that Curt would always say was, it doesn't matter who you are, each and every one of us is replaceable. At the same time, he would say, not a single person is ever greater than the whole. Now, we all knew in that coaching staff room who the head coach was. There was no doubt.
Yep.
But one thing he was able to do that I have been able to take from learning from him and bring it into my real life, I guess you would call it, is the way that he taught teamwork. He gave expectations. He would teach you how he wanted it done or the best way to get it done. But then he would give you ownership. And I remember it was, I think, my third year, and I went from being a volunteer to a paid coach. And he handed over the defensive line to me. I had no idea what I was doing. And he would give me enough, and then he would say, now just go do it. He wouldn't stand over me. He would ask me after practice how it went, what some of the things I was doing. He would give me pointers. But he found a way to teach and lead without overseeing.
Without micromanaging.
Not micromanaging. And I found, and I started to see the more years I was there doing it and watching him, it wasn't always easy for him to step aside and let someone else do it.
Yeah.
Because he's the head coach.
Yeah.
And he probably did know better than the rest of us. But in giving us that ability to take ownership, it became more and more important. And that's something that I have tried to do in my real life. If I'm mentoring or guiding or teaching, I can't always do it myself. I got to give what I can give, but I need to allow that person in my life to go and do it. So that was one thing. Accountability was huge. We won a lot of football games in his time with us.
How many state championships do you guys win?
Oh, well, it was 7 in the span of 10 years, I think. It was a fun run.
It's unreal.
It was a fun run. There's no doubt. A funny thing about Coach Kramme is he was predictably unpredictable. We would come off of a game on a Friday night where we just hammered someone by 40. And you would think, man, Coach is going to be in a great mood when we get to film on Saturday morning. And we'd walk in, and he would be so dialed in the next week that you could hear a pin drop. And the accountability would come up. Hey, we didn't do this well. We didn't do this well. And it's like, wow, okay. We are held to a very high standard.
Yeah.
Also, the flip side, there were Fridays where we would, either lose or squeak out in a game that we were supposed to blow somebody out. And you would walk in thinking, Saturday's not going to be fun, because this is going to be really rough. And you'd walk in, he'd be sitting there watching cartoons on his computer laughing. He always knew how to keep us off of our toes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the accountability thing, we were all held to a very high standard. He allowed it to do it ourselves. But that standard was very clear.
What do you think, kind of looking back at that and having someone who mentored you, who taught you how to do something, gave you the framework to do it, but then said, all right, it's yours, attaboy, go get it. What did that do for you individually, just in, I guess, your psyche a little bit and in your kind maybe level of confidence,
Yeah,
maybe a little bit of a heart attack you'd have, like, oh crap, am I going to screw this up? But I guess, for people who are in a leadership role now, whether it be in a business, whether it be in a church, or some sort of whatever it might be, why was that important for him to do? And then what was the effect that it had on you? Do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah. I think there's a transition there. You said the word yourself, and it instilled confidence. And my thought process was, if Curt Kramme is willing to hand over this small portion of the Lynden High School football program for me to run, he believes I can do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have put me in the positions that he did. That gives you a kickstart, right? Now I believe in myself. I believe whatever it is that I'm called to do, I'm able to do this. It takes away that hesitation. Now you throw in that accountability and the high standard, and now you don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
Okay. He's given this to you. How can I let him down? So now I'm going to strive. I'm going to push myself to do the very best that I can, to expect greatness out of myself, because coach expects that out of me.
Well, and that's where then the accountability comes in, the work ethic. I think we've talked about leaving, no stone unturned, right? Where then all of a sudden you start to take on that mantra of your mentor and your head coach. And
I think that's just the reality of it is because that was so expected for so long, over time that becomes your norm.
Yeah.
And I think that's where now we're not talking football anymore. I think we're talking mentorship in general. If you are in a position to mentor, that's what you have to do. You have to instill that confidence. You have to hold to that high standard. And over time, what that does is that is going to teach that person a new normal. Yeah. It's interesting. I will talk to other coaches from other programs, around the state in general. And they ask how we do things at Lynden. And literally, we do nothing different with Curt gone than we did then. That idea of leaving no stone unturned, we work so incredibly hard. It blows some other coaches' minds how much time and effort we put in. But when you look back at it, I think that's one of the reasons we've been so successful. That's all we know. It's become an identity. Yeah. And I think that's the idea of mentorship in general, right? You're going to teach, you're going to hold to accountability, you're going to push and drive to do very best, with the goal that over time that becomes that person's new identity. Yeah. And that's the massive effect that Curt had, not only on myself, but everyone else that has been with him any time at all.
Well, and there's really no shortcuts to that, right?
No.
I mean, you can't expect someone to take on the role that you want them to without investing time into them. Right. And I think when you step back and you look at it, I think, well, yeah, you want the result, but so many times people try to take the shortcut to it. Yeah. And I've seen in different businesses and different environments that I've been in that they want someone to get to here, but yet they're not willing to invest the time in that person to get there, right? And I think that's so important if you really want your organization to grow, whether it be a coaching staff and a high school football program or a baseball program or whatever it might be, it takes time. Yeah. And you have to have that drive and that passion for relationship with people in order to do that. And that's going to look different with different personalities, right? Well,
and I think that goes back to that thought of commitment. As I was thinking through mentorship today, even, what is mentorship? It's not a quick thing.
No.
I guarantee you there were times that any one of us assistant coaches did something or said something that didn't go over well with coach. Now, he could easily, run us out or turn that relationship away or stopped encouraging and coaching the coaches, but he held committed to the mentorship role that he was in. And because of that, I can think of small handful of people that are incredibly successful in what they do, not only football, but because he remained committed to those that he was mentoring.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your role over the years within the program, the things that, okay, so let me back up here. One of the quotes that I love is by the late Steve Jobs, who was one of the founders of Apple, right?
Yep.
And he said, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people to have them tell us what to do. And so I look at that, and when you talk about giving ownership to people, right? So often nowadays we try to, even with our company, right? With me as an owner, there's certain things I'm like, maybe I'll just kind of keep that to myself. But yet, like when we have our leadership team and we're like, no, we're going to give that off to different people. I find that things go a lot smoother, and so letting people play those roles out and what did that look like for you over time, and maybe how it helped Coach Kramme and how it helped the other members of the coaching staff, but not only did it help the organization as a whole, but it also helped you grow into the role that you're in today, right?
Right. Yeah. I think I can say this in all honesty. If Coach Kramme would have been able to coach the Lynden football team by himself and do every single aspect of it, he would have done it that way because that's just how he was.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing about someone that is in a lead mentor role is you do realize that you need help. And everyone in that room, everyone in that office, everyone on that team, right? Everyone is designed differently. To be able to accomplish whatever objective there is in a different way. Curt understood that, so when he gave us those opportunities to take ownership of a smaller portion, what that allowed him to do was not have to think about or worry about it, but focus on the things that he was responsible for.
Yeah.
And that is kind of something over the years. Like I said, I started out, my original position was strong safety coach. Now, really what that meant, because Coach Kramme was the defensive back coach. So being the strong safety coach basically meant I'm the secondary coach. So I just got to sit underneath him and watch him on defense.
Give me some water.
Yeah, that's totally it, yeah. After a couple years, I moved to the defensive line. It's the first time I had a position by myself. I was with the defensive line until there was a small change in the coaching staff, and then we started moving around a little bit more. The last 2 years, I have been the linebacker coach, a running back coach, and defensive coordinator. That's where a lot of the things that I've learned over the many years I had with Curt, I finally started to see come out, because now I'm in a little bit more of a leadership role.
Yeah.
I'm no longer in that secondary role. I'm responsible for that defense. And to be able to pass those things off to other coaches and to be able to say, I trust you to do this. I have confidence in you to do this. I know you're going to do it well. If you have a question, come ask me. I'll give you the scouting report. I will tell your D lineman what those offensive linemen are going to do, but I want you to go do it, because what that enables me to do is to focus on my little world.
Yeah.
And put my time into game planning, to put my time into recognizing those small little things, because Coach Kramme taught me how to leave no stone unturned. And what you see, and that's one of the things I love about high school football, all those little pieces end up coming together on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And in moments like last year where we repped that play so many times, for it to come down to that one play and for it to happen, we all just looked at each other as coaches and just smiled, because that's how Curt taught us to do it.
Yeah.
Do
you, it's funny now when you have that situation in a leadership role and you're like, hey, I want you to take this and I need you to run with this. Do you ever go back to the first time that Coach Kramme or someone asked you and just kind of be like, wow, it's been a journey.
Right.
It's been a good one.
Right.
and almost kind of feeling thankful and blessed for the role that he had in your life. But does that thought process ever come back now?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And I think if you were to ask our head coach, Coach Van Dalen, how many times we stop in the middle of a film session, or how many times at practice we look at each other and smile, because that stuff comes back all the time.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you the number of times that first season that we were in these new roles, how many times we would kind of look at each other and go, okay, what would Curt do? And how there's just so much that we gained from him. Football-wise, absolutely. Probably everything I know football-wise is from him.
Yeah.
But just how to lead, how to have an incredible work ethic in order to accomplish what is required of you.
Yeah.
But to do it in a very humble manner. I always go back to that. We're all replaceable.
Yeah.
And usually when he said that, he was talking about himself more than anyone else. So it drove that desire for perfection.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And we see it all the time now.
You have all these, these probably fairly serious moments, right? On the headsets, up in the booth, talking down, things like that. Give me something, you have this guy that you look up to that realistically sometimes you might be a little intimidated by, like, because he's a smart guy. He knows his stuff, right? Give me something maybe funny that happens at practice with the kids or with him or something like that. Is there any stories that you can think about that was just kind of like thinking back on Coach Kramme as kind of the football guru? Like,
there's so many things going through my mind right now. One really good one, it came to my attention at one point that maybe it would be fun to get the kids to think that Coach Kramme was really good at Madden.
On PlayStation?
Yep, on mine. And before we did this, we asked him, if we could do this and if maybe he would play along if he was asked. And he laughed really hard for a long time this weekend thinking about this. So we got to, I think it was a Thursday night practice, and Coach Van Dalen and I had planned this out that at the right time in between snaps or something, we were going to start talking about how Coach Kramme had turned down an invitation to go to the Madden, what do you call it, the Madden playoffs in Las Vegas.
World Championship.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want anyone to know that he played online.
That he played video games.
And it was really funny as Van Dalen and I are talking, you start seeing the players that are standing around us to start coming in a little closer and listening. And then you'd see them go and walk away, and next thing you know, you'd see a group like 5 or 6, and they're just kind of talking to each other with this bizarre look on their face. And finally, a player comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I overheard, does Coach Kramme play Madden?" I said, "Oh, yeah, like hours and hours and hours."
Why do you think he's such a guru,
Oh,
right?
exactly, right? And I said, "Well, yeah, he's like ranked in the top 15 in the world. You got to be kidding. Really? What's his screen name?" I'm like, he won't even tell us because he doesn't want word getting out. We let this go on for weeks. And finally, and I can't remember who it was, went up and asked him and said, "Can you please tell me what your screen name is on Madden? We really want to see how good you really are." And he couldn't keep a straight face and just started laughing. So there were a lot of those moments.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. So if you had to like, even though I'm more of I coach at Lynden Christian and I'm not involved in that program, I think pretty much everyone in this community knows Lynden football, the phrase
setback, comeback.
Setback, comeback. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
He actually, I believe, got that from Tom Moore at Prosser. But it was something that he believed so strongly in that it really became the mantra of Lynden football, of the coaching staff, of the players. Mm-hmm. It's funny how it was such a football thing. It was such a football thing, but it has become a life thing for me. How many times there are when you're on the football field, things don't go well.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of football.
Yeah.
And he would preach that to us, and we would preach that to the kids. When things don't go well, when you have a setback, you have an opportunity to have a comeback. And this is what's going to make us a good football team. There were weeks where we would lose a football game that we shouldn't have. Not many, but they would happen. And it's how you respond in those moments that's most important. And I can't say how much that has crossed over in my own personal life, right? You're going to have moments of failure. Mm-hmm. You're going to have moments where there's a setback. And at that point, you have a decision, right? How are you going to respond? Are you going to allow that setback to destroy you? Are you going to allow it to keep you down? Or are you going to turn around and come back fighting the next moment you have breath? Yeah. And that is something that I think if there's one thing that he taught me, more so than anything else, was that simple phrase, because there's so much victory in that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why for me it's so hard to look back at who was the man that I walked into completely afraid of, who taught me so much, who over time not only became a mentor, but an incredibly close friend.
Yeah.
To look at that and to see him battle cancer and not be able to have victory over that, not be able to have a comeback over that. That was hard for a really long time. But for me, it continues to drive me, even though he's not here, whether it be as a defensive coordinator, whether it be as a mentor to a football player, whether it be as being an insurance agent, a husband, a father. I have a desire to continue to overcome any struggles or downfalls, to meet those setbacks with a comeback of my own, because that was taught to me so strongly for so long. It's become an identity.
Yeah. I think you said it right. Every time there is something maybe bad or something difficult that you go through, it is an opportunity for that comeback.
Right.
I'll just kind of like wrap up here. Any, kind of last thoughts or that you might have, just even, a minute to just kind of honor Curt and just his legacy a little bit. Anything that you'd like to share about him?
I miss him.
Yeah.
I miss him. And what a legacy is that, right?
Yeah.
When you're gone. There have been times in the last couple of years where I'm up in the booth and I'm having a difficult time stopping an offense. My brain immediately goes back to, okay, what would Curt do right now?
Yeah.
There have been times that I've changed some calls because he's in my head. I'm not talking verbally, but he trained me so well that I began to think like him.
Yeah.
But I think it's more so, those quiet nights or those times that you're just processing life in general. Those are probably the moments I think about him the most. It's been real fun because I'm still very close with his wife. And there are times that I call her and just say, hey, you know what? I don't understand this because your husband's been gone for 3 years, but I got up this morning and your husband's name is on my most recent calls list, and I never called him. Just small little things like that I'm able to, share with her and share with the other coaches on the staff. We talk often. Remember that time when Curt this? Remember that time when Curt that? He was a special man that, like I said, his reach was more than just Lynden football.
Yeah.
And I think that's a legacy that I hope one day I'm able to have, simply because he taught me how to do that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Blake, thanks for sharing your story today, and even a little dive into Coach Kramme and just the legacy that he left, not only as a coach, but as a man, and the influence on your life and so many kids. I mean, there's so many kids that have gone through that program, and you just, you just hear about it, and you hear about the incredible man of integrity that he was. And
Awesome.
so
thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Always easy.
Podcast, thankfully, is brought to us by Nationwide Insurance. The agents at Manna Insurance Group know a lot about auto, business, farm, home, life, and retirement. Call Manna today at 360-922-0149. Nationwide is on your side. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio, subject to underwriting guidelines, review, and approval.